Bighorn or Wounded Knee instead of her kitchen, with her husband dressed in full Indian garb, it would have been a smash. Warren formed a presidential exploratory committee and visited the early primary state of New Hampshire Saturday. Meanwhile, President Trump is also tweeting about Amazon and Washington Post owner Jeff Bezos after the paper reported the president is concealing details about meetings with Russia.
The White House denies it. In a statement, White House Press Secretary Sarah Sanders said that the report in the Post is outrageously inaccurate. She went on to say, quote, the liberal media has wasted 2 years trying to manufacture a fake collusion scandal instead of reporting the fact that, unlike President Obama, President Trump has actually been tough on Russia. According to the Washington Post, U.S. officials said there is no detailed record, even in classified files, of Trump's face-to-face interactions with the Russian leader at 5 locations over the past 2 years.
Fox's Ellison Barber, President Trump says hopefully the paper will soon be placed in better and more responsible hands. Officials in Indonesia have the cockpit voice recorder from the Lion Air jet that crashed in the Java Sea in October. Human remains were also discovered. 189 people died in that crash. A man suspected of kidnapping a Wisconsin teenager and killing her parents is due to make his first court appearance. 22-year-old Jake Thomas Patterson will be formally charged Monday.
Jamie Kloss is finally home. In a Saturday morning Facebook post, Jamie's aunt wrote on the teen's return to normalcy, saying it will be a long road, but we are family strong, and we love this little girl so much. Kloss was found nearly 70 miles from her home where her parents were brutally murdered. Thousands of volunteers had been searching for her for weeks.
Fox 6 Milwaukee's Aaron Mabin, the charging documents could shed some light on the case. This is Fox News.
Always here to help you. This island is our home. Through the years we've been a friend to the neighbors we have known. Now we're banking on the future. Services to choose. Bank Pacific, where others put branches, we place roots.
It's important to have claims process that works for you. At Guahan Insurance Services, we make things simple and convenient. Same door you walk in to purchase your insurance is the same door you open to file your claim. We can't pretend that the car insurance claims process is fun, but we can promise a hassle-free and speedy recovery without any runarounds. For your home, auto, and business insurance, visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center on Marine Corps Drive in Tamuning. Don't forget to like us on Facebook or give us a call at 475-1162 or text 929-SAVE. That's 929-7283.
Teachers in Los Angeles are set to go on strike Monday.
Some parents will end up taking their kids to school, even if those schools are understaffed during a strike.
Some of the parents are just keeping their kids home because of the moral objection to crossing a picket line.
Justine Soifer is a special ed teacher at Valley Academy of Arts and Sciences. She says they do want higher wages, but also more staff, like teachers, to reduce class sizes, and counselors, librarians, and nurses. She says one time at her school, a kid was injured.
It was myself and the school secretary trying to flush this rubber piece out of a kid's eye. And yes, I have first aid training, but I'm not a registered nurse.
The district superintendent has said they don't have the money to accommodate all of the union's demands, but are asking the state for more funds. Jessica Rosenthal, Fox News.
An 18-year-old woman was killed in a shooting at a Phoenix motel. Police say the altercation began as an argument and escalated from there.
It's my understanding that it started as a very heated verbal. I haven't received information that it turned physical in the sense of, hand-to-hand fighting. But at some point, that's when the alleged suspect pulled out the handgun and started shooting.
Sergeant Armando Carbajal with the Phoenix Police Department. Another shooting Sunday at a mall just outside of Salt Lake City, Utah. The gunfire near the entrance of the Fashion Place Mall sent 2 people to the hospital. The shoppers were evacuated with their arms raised as they left the building. The mall shooting is believed to be gang-related. The New Orleans Saints came back from a 14-point deficit to beat the Philadelphia Eagles Sunday, 20-14. The Saints will host the Rams next Sunday for a spot in the Super Bowl. The winner will take on either Kansas City or New England in the Super Bowl in Atlanta. Gas prices are down 12 cents a gallon over the past 3 weeks. The national average is now $2.31. But don't get used to that price. Industry analysts say crude oil prices are coming up, so that means that gas prices may also rise. I'm Richard Jordan, and this is Fox News.
Chili's 3 for Me menu just got bigger. We're giving you more choices for the same great price. For just $15, you can get a beverage, salad, and an entree. First, choose from a refreshing Coca-Cola, iced tea, or Heineken on draft. Then enjoy a house salad and select your choice of a mouth-watering entree, like our half-rack ribs, Cajun chicken pasta, old-timer burger, personal chicken fajitas, or the flavorful margarita flatbread. So hurry in today and enjoy our Chili's 3 for Me menu for just $15. Available for a limited time. Chili's, more life happens here.
Laddystone Entertainment and the stations of Choice Broadcasting invite you to meet the 2019 Miss and Mrs. Curvy Pageant contestants with the official meet and greet on Sunday, January 20th at Icon. Doors open at 6 and it's $15 at the door, and it comes with your first drink. Get to know your favorite curvy contestants with the fabulous fashion show by Figure 8. It's the 2019 Miss and Mrs. Curvy Pageant. Brought to you by Pitbull Empire, Figure 8 Boutique, local promos, Bongdozas, and Icon. For more information, check out Laddystone Entertainment on Facebook. It's the 2019 Miss and Mrs. Curvy Pageant.
Welcome to Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie, the only show on talk radio where common sense is a lot more common. Phone lines are now open at 888-TALK. That's 888-8255. And now, The Point proudly brings you Tall Tales with Senator Bob Klitzkie.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That's how we start the program every day, and quite often I'll have a little tidbit concerning the Second Amendment, what it means, what it doesn't mean, who really likes it, who really doesn't like it, who wants to take it away from you. But I won't be doing that today because both the Daily News and, actually the Daily News on two different fronts beat me to the punch. So they've kind of stolen my thunder on the Second Amendment. So instead of having my usual Second Amendment soliloquy today, we'll pick up our jabbering about the Second Amendment in Zemi Ikotny. Right. And also, we'll pick it up on the card because I've got an item in the card called Joe San Augustine versus the PDN. So since the real Joe Cruz, the ever popular, the one and only, the famous real Joe Cruz, let's see, I haven't seen any. I guess we're off to a slow start today, Real Joe Cruz. I haven't seen anybody post something saying, hello, Real Joe Cruz.
That's all right, sir. Sorry about the preemptive strike with the Meet the Press music there.
No, it's actually kind of timely because that's exactly where I am right now. I'm going straight to Meet the Press since I don't have any Second Amendment material, independent Second Amendment material. But here's the Daily News. Our view, reject stand your ground law for Guam. Yeah. So it's not bad enough that they're writing editorials that they want people to read in the newspaper. They also want to kind of horn in on the entree into Tall Tales, where we always get into the Second Amendment and guns and self-defense and things like that. But you know, they're in business to make money, so whatever works for them, I guess we'll have to just work around it. Last week, Senator Joe San Augustine introduced a, quote, stand your ground bill in the legislature, which would expand a person's ability to, which would expand a person's ability to defend themselves, right? So I guess Joe's bill only applies to people, to Siamese twin. I can't say that either. Conjoined twins, right? Yeah, would expand a person's ability to defend themselves without first attempting to retreat. While well-intentioned, stand-your-ground laws have been problematic in communities that have enacted them. These laws have been on the books since Florida introduced the first one in 2005, and there is a fair amount of research indicating they result in more violence, particularly more homicides. We do not need more violence in our community. I agree with that. We got enough already. We do not need a stand your ground law. Well, we'll see. Self-defense is a legitimate and necessary reason for using force, including deadly force, against another person. Under Guam's 5-year-old castle doctrine, people are allowed to use defensive force without retreating from their homes, workplaces, or vehicles. The proposed stand your ground law would allow a person to defend him or herself. Okay, so I guess it's broader than what I thought in the beginning, where it might only apply to conjoined twins, right? The proposed stand your ground law would a person to defend him or herself immediately without fear of later prosecution of civil liability for a split decision made while in reasonable fear of danger. I think they mean split second decision there. I've got to check the bill and see if they use that language. Anywhere they are illegally allowed to be. This could, quote, this could be walking at the beach or in other public or private places where the victim or potential victim may legally be, the bill states. On its face, it sounds like a good idea. But what happens in an encounter when two people, both lawfully in a public place, feel threatened by each other? Is whoever survives the encounter automatically considered the victim? I think it'd be considered the survivor. The Guam Police Department described, the whole department came over there to do this, right? Described San Augustine's original Stand Your Ground bill, a, quote, recipe for increased violence, and the Office of the Attorney General recommended that the original bill be reworked to comply with the American Bar Association's National Task Force on Stand Your Ground. In 2015, the American Bar Association approved a resolution urging all federal, state, and local and territorial legislative bodies and governmental agencies to refrain from enacting Stand Your Ground laws that eliminate the duty to retreat before using force in self-defense in public places, or repeal such existing Stand Your Ground laws. That's a quote. The punchline: our laws already allow people to defend themselves and their homes. Another law allowing deadly force, particularly a law that has led to more violence in other places, will not make us safer. Well, for a little discussion, I could zero in on the word us. Now, if I were carrying a pistol, and let's say that I'm walking down the street here in front of Choice Broadcasting, and somebody comes up to me, and he's got a big pipe, and he starts swinging that pipe at me, and he says, "I hate tall tales. I'm going to get even with you, buddy." You got to use a lot of imagination on this one, right? It's hard to imagine anyone not only not hating tall tales, but not loving every minute of it. But he says, "I hate tall tales. I'm going to bash your head in." Now, if I happen to have a pistol when he's swinging that thing at me and I shoot him, it's going to make me a lot safer. Now, they use the word will not make us a lot safer. So in their sort of inarticulate manner, what they're trying to say here is society as a whole will not be a lot safer if we have stand your ground laws. And, you can speculate on that quite a bit. Let's say that in our own community here, we really embrace the idea of concealed carry. And let's say that more than half the people on the island go through the training and have the concealed carry permit and are carrying pistols on their person that are not readily visible to someone approaching that person. I should have said them, right? Yeah. And let's say that I'm one of these guys that likes to swing pipes at other people or shoot people with slingshots or do some of the grab purses or rape people or things like that. And I know that the odds are better than even that if I randomly choose someone from the general public, that person may very well have a pistol secreted on his body, and if I make an aggressive move towards him, I might not only be unsuccessful in my aggressive plan, I might wind up with a bullet hole in my body. Now, how would that particular speculation, how would that work into the sentence? Another law allowing deadly force, particularly a law that has led to more violence in other places, will not make us safer. So, okay, I got a, wow, already, huh? Oh, it's Jimmy, huh? Did he want to talk to me or you, Real Joe Cruz? Okay. All right, so we got Jimmy on here. Hello, Jimmy.
Oh, hey. Yeah, I was just saying, Mark Twain said there's lies, there's damn lies, and there's statistics. And then if 50% of the people on Guam have a concealed carry permit, if the middle word of life. But anyway, what do you think about politician jokes?
Well, I like them, Jimmy. I like them.
I love your lawyer jokes, but I've been working. But anyway, you want to hear a politician joke?
Yeah, let's go, Jimmy.
When you invite a bunch of politicians to dinner, where do they sit?
If you invite a bunch of politicians to dinner, where do they sit? I give up, Jimmy. Where do they sit?
As close to the public trough as possible.
Okay, I got that. I knew a guy here several years ago who used to describe the typical politician approach.
I'm not finished.
Okay, I just thought I'd interject something here to kind of amplify your point, Jimmy.
Please forgive me. I'm sorry. Continue, please.
Yeah. Well, this guy said, that when it came to the public trough, your average politician subscribed to the theory that the biggest hog in the trough gets the most slop. That sounds almost like a Jimmyism, doesn't it, Jimmy?
No, he wasn't. I don't think he was wrong. I couldn't argue against him, whoever said that.
Okay.
You want to hear another politician joke?
All right.
What is the difference between a very, very corrupt politician and a very, very fat politician?
What is the difference between a very, very corrupt politician and a very, very fat politician? Go ahead.
About 240 pounds.
Okay, Jimmy.
Okay. I thought of some other ones, but I can't remember them now.
Okay. Well, you can always call us tomorrow or the next day or whatever. We look forward to your calls, Jimmy. You got the show off to a good start today.
But perhaps we could remember, God knows and God sees.
There you go. Okay, Jimmy, thanks for calling. That was a philosophical Jimmy at the end of the call there. Okay, so that's my speculation. You know, if people who want to do bad things succumb to the idea that everybody is carrying a concealed firearm, I think it would make us all a lot safer. But that's just speculation. I think the chances of something like that happening are not great. However, and of course, the people that are capable of doing these bad things that we think we need to protect ourselves from, oftentimes aren't exactly PhDs in critical thinking. Oftentimes, they don't really examine the possibilities of what they're doing, the ultimate possibility of what might happen to them because of what they want to do to somebody else. But I'm not ready yet to just out of hand say that stand your ground is a bad idea. I've got to hear a little bit more testimony here, like Jimmy's penetrating testimony. Okay, so and we go to the Post. And the Post, one of our callers ought to be paying special attention. Our callers and posters ought to be paying special attention to this part of Jimmy Ekotny. Here's the title: Fixing Public Pool Should Take Priority. I didn't even know that Tom needed fixing. Did you? Okay. So the Guam public must get clarity on what's going to be done about the lack of a functioning public pool for the island for months now. Politicians often say the youths are our future, and we must provide them with the facilities to keep them fit and active. But the sad state of the Hagåtña public swimming pool belies any elected official's comment along these lines. The public pool has been shut down for months now, since November. The pool's shallower part is devoid of water. The deeper parts are growing algae. The Dadido public pool has not been working for even longer than its Hagåtña counterpart. I can't ever remember when the Dadido pool worked. They had this nice water slide and this beautiful pool, and I remember somebody asking the mayor of Dadido, when is that pool going to be fixed? He said, I don't know. That's Public Works or Parks and Rec. For the entire island, there is no working public swimming pool. This puts the students and the youth groups who don't have access to private swimming pools at a disadvantage. For those who can afford public pools, swimming activities go on. For that, now here we go. Here's the Post. The Post is kind of drifting a little bit to the left. Did you notice that, Real Joe Cruz? Here we go. For the have-nots, it's a wait and see for the government of Guam to get its act together. So we have the haves who have access to private swimming pools, and the have-nots that are stuck with the government of Guam. So let's see, maybe what we ought to do then is enact a statute that says anyone who has a swimming pool must open it to the public whenever the public pools are unusable. That would even it out, wouldn't it? Then we wouldn't have this have and have-nots business. And we have not been able to get a clear and straight answer on why the Hagåtña pool was shut down to begin with. We've heard bits and pieces of comments from prior and current GovGuam officials that the public pool's water service was disconnected for non-payment of past due bills. The Department of Parks and Rec owes about $900,000 in water bills, more than half of which was attributed to the Hagåtña public pool, the current administration has acknowledged. Well, I guess the answer here is to pass the or more bill and collect $8 million more in taxes. That way we can afford to pay a water bill of $900,000 or more every year to keep the pool open. That would be one solution to the problem. The prior management of the pool stated that the pool had a leak that led to the water bill of almost $500,000 for the Hagåtña pool alone. Now, let's see. If you have a water leak and it's costing you a lot of money because you're paying for all that water that leaks out. What is it that what could a person do about that? What would you do, Real Joe Cruz, if you had a water leak at Real Joe Cruz Acres?
I would probably source the leak and then repair it.
Fix the leak, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds most prudent.
Yeah. I would have expected no less from you, Real Joe Cruz.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. And then recently, the editorial goes on to say, recently we've been told there was no leak. So what do we got? Water thieves? People come in there with their 5-gallon jugs, and steal water from the pool? We also recently heard the water bills were not paid because they were not submitted to the Department of Administration for processing of payment. You save a lot of money like that. You know, if you're really frugal, you don't put stamps on your letters. You just put them in the mailbox, right? And never sign any of your checks. That way you can save a lot of money. Now, the way the government of Guam works is this, that the line agencies rely on the Department of Administration for accounting. So every line agency would have probably one person at the Department of Administration that's responsible for paying that agency's bills as they accrue. So the bills go to that person, and that person, you know, probably still fills out forms, et cetera. I don't think they're automated down there yet. And if everything is done in a correct fashion, then as if by magic, a check issues from the treasurer of Guam, unless there's some sort of journal entry type payment arranged between the agency and the creditor. Perhaps the Waterworks has such an arrangement with the Department of Parks and Recreation, so a check, a piece of paper, doesn't actually have to get transmitted. But it is set up to pay those bills. So if the Department of Parks and Recreation is sitting on a $900,000 water bill, I would think that that ought to rise to the level of attention of more than just the newspaper after the pools can't be used anymore. What about the person down at the Department of Administration who's responsible for paying the receivables of the waterworks? Is that person saying, well, I guess I got it pretty easy this year. I don't have to pay any of those darn water bills for the Parks and Rec. Just one less thing I got to worry about. I'm going to forget it. Or the folks up there at Waterworks, if I were $90 in arrears, I would find out about it darn quick. I would go to the well, and the well would be dry. So how do things like this happen? How is it that an agency can run up a bill of $900,000 with another agency, and nobody even notices it until the swimming pool is closed? And then, including the Daily News and the Post, you know, this doesn't seem like any of us are being very insightful here. So, then we go on with the editorial. Recently, we were told there was no leak. We also recently heard the water bills were not paid because they were not submitted to the Department of Administration for processing for payment. And we're told Parks and Rec didn't have money in its budget to pay for the $900,000 anyhow. Well, that's a good reason not to submit your bills to the Department of Administration. It's kind of like no sense writing a check to pay a bill if there's no money in your account. So I'm just going to mark the spot here in this editorial and take this caller after I've marked the spot. Hello, Mark.
Hey, Senator. You asked how it happened. I have a simple answer.
Okay.
Incompetence.
Okay. Well, it's hard to argue with someone who seems to be so well informed, Mark.
I mean, incompetence at Parks and Recs and incompetence at the Department of Administration. That clerk should have been saying, Parks, I haven't seen your water bill for December. Where's it at? And if they don't respond to the clerk, she's talking to her supervisor to director. Incompetence at the swimming pool. I can see how a leak at a swimming pool may not be noticed, unlike at a house. I will give them that because the water is always at the right level. But do they check the water meter on a daily basis to see how much is going in? And if there's more going in than normal, then, hey, Houston, we have a problem.
Seems right to me, Mark.
I just, if it wasn't so serious, it would be hysterically funny.
If it weren't $900,000 serious, right, Mark?
Yeah, and you're right. Waterworks, if I don't pay my bill within, if I get beyond, if it goes older than a month, they're ready to turn me off. How did Parks and Recs, did they run up a $900,000 bill in 1 month?
Good point, Mark.
So, how long did that bill not get paid before they decided, they say the bond covenants require us to disconnect any user that doesn't pay the bill, government or private or commercial. Okay, well, how long did they go without paying before it got stopped?
All good questions, Mark.
And guess what? We'll never get the answer.
Well, this is the opportunity for the Leon Guerrero administration to shine, to go in there and find out the answers, take notes, and tell us exactly what happened. And after we find out what's happened, then we can take steps to prevent it from happening again, right?
I would hope they would, as they say, go in and, kick a certain anatomy and take names.
I agree, Mark. Well, thanks for sharing your thoughts on that one, Mark. You made your mark today.
All right, Senator. Have a good day.
Now, I've got Ishmael Velez, who has his own idea of what happened here. He's put this on Facebook. Guam heat and thirsty frogs account for the missing Agana pool water. Well, let's listen to a little John Gibson here after we get done with Dave Brubeck.
John Gibson, digging up history. The greatest player baseball has ever seen. More home runs, hit farther, hit harder than even the great Babe Ruth. And yet he never played in the major leagues. That story after this. Let's talk heirloom sheets and towels from Redland Cotton in Alabama. First, the family farm, growing the finest cotton in the world. The spinning, the looming, every step made in America, right down to the cutting and sewing. Sheets designed from a long-lost 1920s weave. The softest, most comfortable, longest-lasting sheets you've ever slept on. The Redland family, dedicated to America and linens you'll treasure. Check out redlandcotton.com for America's linen. redlandcotton.com. The records are hard to pin down, but he probably hit over 800 home runs in his career. He hit 89 one year, hit 75 in another. He hit the ball so hard, his baseballs broke the backs of seats in the outfield. In the 1930s and 1940s, he was surely the greatest player of his time. He died young at age 35 of a massive stroke, broken-hearted as well, because he never played even a single game in the major leagues. His name, Josh Gibson, and the reason he was never signed in the major leagues was simple. As great a player as he was barred from the major leagues because he was black. I'm John Gibson, digging up history.
Docomo Pacific is making the Better Together bundle even better. 2 great services plus more. Get unlimited local calls, SMS, and 20 gigs of data, plus unlimited home internet for $109 a month. Sign up today and get free installation and choose between a free Galaxy S8, S8 Plus, or $100 off select devices. Mobile plus online from Docomo Pacific. Better together. Some conditions apply. See store for details.
Now, more Tall Tales with Bob Klitzkie. Spitting truth like watermelon seeds at a summer picnic. Call now, 888-TALK, 888-8255.
So finishing up here with the daily news, the grown-ups, the public pool is essential to youth programs. Well, that's true, but it's like everything else in the government. If we have it, it has to work right. My own personal approach to things, the Chamorro Land Trust, I've explained that I don't have a dog in that fight at all. I don't. Neither I nor anyone that I'm close to has a Chamorro Land Trust lease, has an application for a Chamorro Land Trust lease, or has any idea of ever having a Chamorro Land Trust lease. But the Tall Tales approach here is, if you're going to do it, if the government's going to do it, it's got to do it right. No matter who benefits or who doesn't benefit, it's got to be done right. And I feel the same way about the pool. I know plenty of adults that build much of their exercise routine around the Agania pool. And when it's not there, they just aren't getting their exercise. They aren't fortunate like the host of the Ray Gibson show and I, where the Department of Public Works furnishes us our recreation arena. It's called the public roads. But there are those who really get into swimming. So, yeah, it just got to be fixed. Enough excuses, enough horsing around, and same with the Daily-Do pool. First, the administration, with its promise of transparency, must tell the public what happened. It must tell the public who's responsible and how people will be held accountable. Maybe they could get some of the investigators back to the Chamorro Land Trust. Maybe we could get some of their investigators to come in and tell us that they've investigated all of the actors involved here and nobody did anything wrong, right? So if nobody did anything wrong, then there's nobody to hold accountable, right? Perhaps it's that idea here that is a little more pervasive than what we'd like to see in some government agencies, many government agencies, most government agencies. I'll let you decide. The next step is to give the public a hard deadline for when the Agania public pool will reopen. If financial sacrifices, now here comes the part I like. If financial sacrifices must be made to the public pool a priority, so be it. Maybe a liaison office in Washington can wait. Or the staffing of a GovGuam agency that's been dormant for years can continue to be idle to prioritize the money for tangible, useful activities for our youth. And I would add one to it also. Perhaps the amount of money necessary to figure the cost for repairing the bills and paying the water bills could be denominated in deputy directors. Figure a deputy director makes around $100,000 a year or so. So if something cost $5,000, the cost would be, well, that's pretty reasonable. It's only 5 deputy directors. Okay, and the final sentence here, the administration just needs to get into the habit of doing for the right reasons. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So it's time for me to award the coveted Blue Star Award. It's close. I was a little critical of the Post editorial today, but I think they made a fair amount of sense. They're fairly logical, and they did comment on something that does require comment, public discussion, etc. There's some edginess, hard-hitting, etc. But I like the Post a little bit better, especially the way they wound up their editorial. That's the kind of stuff that we hope to see in editorials. Therefore, Guam Daily Post. Yeah. They're high-fiving down at the editorial boardroom of the Post today. You could bet on that. I got an interesting Facebook comment here going back to the Daily News editorial from Pierre. Pierre says, considering that Guam has some of the most restrictive gun ownership and CCP rules, concealed carry permit rules, you can safely say that all legal owners of guns and CC permit holders have been fully vetted. According to the FBI's own statistics nationwide, CCP holders are the most law-abiding citizens in the United States. They have the least amount of traffic tickets, tax audits, and the least of all crimes, including misdemeanors and felonies. In fact, CCP holders have close to 0 felonies nationwide. To infer, therefore, that this new law will lead to a greater danger to the general population is nothing short of preposterous. Okay, and then Richard V. Leon chimes in on the poll. The AG should get up to bat and investigate. The public auditor should be responsive. Lou LG should be asking, even though she represents unhealthy lifestyle. I didn't know that, but okay. So be it, Richard. Thank you. Okay, so that's Jemmy Cotney for today. And now we go to the card. And you remember that the first item on the card here is the law lecture. So we talk about Guam law, national law, Supreme Court, etc. And the purpose of the law lecture is to do a little education on the laws of some of the states. For example, and now we're at, let's see, I think, yeah, we've been through the Souths. Yeah, I think we're at Tennessee and Texas. So, of course, Texas will take a lot longer because everybody knows that everything is bigger and better in Texas, right? Okay, Tennessee. In Tennessee, it's illegal to use a lasso to catch a fish. Now, I'll bet you it's legal in Texas to use a lasso to catch a fish. Because them there Texas boys, they's always out on the range lassoing cattle and stuff. So lassoing a fish, that would be nothing for a Texas boy. In Dyersburg, Tennessee, it's illegal for a woman to call a man for a date. In Memphis, Tennessee, restaurants, it's illegal to give any pie to fellow diners. So I guess that really makes it a little bit more difficult to carry on some kinds of discussions about money and investing, because you couldn't use the expression, well, you know, everybody wants a piece of the pie. It's illegal to give any pie to fellow diners. It is also illegal to take unfinished pie home. Pie must be eaten on premises. Probably something that's spilled over from their alcohol laws. Also in Memphis, it's illegal for a woman to drive by herself. A man must walk or run in front of the vehicle, waving a red flag in order to warn approaching pedestrians and motorists of the woman driver. Well,
Are they trying to say that women are bad drivers, sir?
I think so, yeah. You know, back before the Me Too movement and women's, you know, the as what Rush Limbaugh refers to as the feminazis, there used to be jokes called women driver jokes. You know, you younger fellas wouldn't remember this, but once upon a time, cars used to have a manual choke. So when you start a car in the wintertime, you'd have to pull out that manual choke. And the woman's driver joke was that her car never ran very well after she got it started. She took it to the garage, and the mechanic found out that she used the choke as a place to hang her purse. Very politically incorrect, I know. Anyhow, where were we here? Texas. The entire Encyclopedia Britannica is banned in Texas because it contains a formula for making beer at home. If you've ever been to Texas, they still have dry counties in Texas, counties where no alcohol can be sold. In Texas, a recently passed anti-crime law requires criminals to give their victims 24 hours notice, either orally or in writing, and to explain the nature of the crime to be committed. And I suppose not giving proper notice is itself a crime. Texas. In El Paso, Texas, churches, hotels, halls of assembly, stores, markets, banking rooms, railroad depots, and saloons are required to provide spittoons, quote, of a kind and number to efficiently contain expectorations into them. Again, that sounds very Texas-like, doesn't it? Okay, in Texas, it is illegal to milk another person's cow. In Houston, it's illegal to sell Limburger cheese on Sunday. I can understand that one. In La Forge, Texas, it's illegal to take more than 3 swallows of beer while standing. I guess 3 swallows, sit down, stand up, 3 more swallows. In San Antonio, Texas, it's illegal for both sexes to flirt or respond to flirtation using the eyes and or the hands. In Mesquite, Texas, it's illegal for children to have unusual haircuts. Real Joe, I don't think you better stay away from Mesquite.
I've got no hair, sir.
Yeah, that's a pretty unusual haircut, Real Joe Cruz. Okay, so we're coming up on another 10 minutes. We got that big halftime show here.
Welcome to Subway's ad for the new Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich. How would you like it?
I would like it to predict my future.
My pleasure.
I see. Your future, a delicious moment in the new Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich with steak, jalapeno peppers, and Chipotle Southwest sauce. Wait, I foresee an imminent spell that is going to entice you. It's the crunchy bread with sunflower seeds, which provides an enchanting flavor. Don't miss it, and be mindful, the portal of the Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich is open for a limited time only. Subway, make it what you want.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
So we got an interesting card here today. I've got Lulian Guerrero versus Doris Kearns Goodwin. You're probably wondering, who in the heck is Doris Kearns Goodwin? I don't remember her running for governor, but you'll find out. You've got Joe San Augustine versus the Pacific Daily News. Not much explanation required there. And we've got a holdover, Bavacqua versus cruelty to animals, and Bavacqua versus the United States of America. We've got Kelly Marsh versus worthiness, or lack thereof. We've got Lester Carlson versus Moylan and low taxes. Jack Bostrom, this is for you old-timers, Jack Bostrom versus LULAC. And Tall Tales versus Woke Skulls. So let me pick up with Lou Leon Guerrero versus Doris Kearns Goodwin. Doris Kearns Goodwin is purports to be a historian, kind of pretty far over on the left, but I'll give her a break. And for the purposes of this discussion, we'll say she is a historian. And she's a best-selling historian. She sold an awful lot of books. And her specialty is biographies. And she wrote a pretty nice one on Abraham Lincoln called Cabinet of Rivals. And it goes to Lincoln's presidency. Lincoln was a president who did not win the popular vote. He won the vote in the Electoral College. Primarily because he was such a good politician that he was able to structure his campaign in a manner that fit in between a split in the Democrat Party and some rather unusual things going on as far as the Whigs were concerned. He was a Republican, but probably he was the closest thing to a Whig in the race. But anyhow, he was elected. And he appointed 4 people that ran against him to cabinet positions. That's the term, cabinet of rivals. Well, if you know anything about Abraham Lincoln, he was really good at playing people off one against the other and getting people to do the things that he wanted them to do, even if perhaps in the beginning they didn't want to do. They didn't want to comply with his what he thought they should do. So the book Cabinet of Rivals, a very interesting story, and perhaps a political how-to-do book at the same time. Now, disclaimer here, I don't get any royalties from Doris Kearns Goodwin. So if you rush over to your computer and buy this book on Amazon, I don't get anything out of it except, I start out here with probably the most intelligent radio listenership in the country. So the more you read, perhaps the easier my job is. But anyhow, I'm wondering if Lou Leon Guerrero ever read Cabinet of Rivals and is attempting kind of the same trick herself with a couple of her appointments. And I'm referring to an article that appeared on Sunday. Governor taps Gutierrez as chief advisor. Berdallo as liaison in Washington. Governor says she appointed former Governor Madeline Berdallo, as you were. Governor Leon Guerrero on Friday said former Governor Carl T.C. Gutierrez is her chief advisor for economic development and national and international affairs. That's going to require an extra large business card, I think. So I wonder if from now on we can refer to former Governor Carl Gutierrez as chief, since he's a chief in the Leon Guerrero administration. While former Governor Madeline Berdallo will run the administration's office in Washington, D.C. The address of the Starbucks from which she will conduct business has not as yet been disclosed. I suppose Madeline has to work with the former Washington rep on that one. The new governor also said she will carefully weigh giving new tax breaks to investors because of their impact on the general fund but she said she has yet to look closely at existing qualified certificates program. Now that's interesting. I wonder why it's in this story. In Guam politics, it's rare to have a former governor becoming a part of another administration, even if they come from the same party. I would say it's not only rare, it's never happened before. So we don't have that many former governors around anymore either. And then a quote, I feel very honored that Governor Leon Guerrero and Lieutenant Governor Josh Tenorio asked me to help and prioritize economic development and work on national and international issues affecting Guam, Gutierrez said. Gutierrez, as chief advisor for economic development, national and international affairs, one of his priorities is ensuring consistent and smooth processes when investors want to do business on Guam, and will work on further strengthening the telecommunications and airline industry on Guam. So maybe I'll just stop here for a second. It was during the Gutierrez, during Chief Gutierrez's administration, when he was the governor, that Guam, our telephone tariffs went from international to domestic. You recall it wasn't that long ago that if you wanted to call the United States mainland, you had to dial 011, right? Or you had to dial 1, but if somebody in the mainland wanted to call Guam, I'm sorry, I had it backwards. Someone in the mainland wanted to call Guam, they had to dial 011 because that was our country code at the time, because we weren't part of the North American numbering plan and the tariff arrangements that kind of went along with that. And it was during the Gutierrez administration that this happened. And how much money does that save you right now? I mean, calling the mainland used to be a pretty expensive operation. Now, you can do it from your cell phone, and I don't even know what the rates are anymore because they're so negligible. Just shows you how far we've come here. Back 50 years ago, if you wanted to call the mainland, it cost you $12 for 3 minutes. Back in the days when a teacher was making maybe 25 or 30 bucks a day, you didn't make very many calls to the mainland back in those days. So, as far as the technology is concerned here, Governor Gutierrez cracked that nut. And good that he did, because we're still reaping the benefits from that. Then going back up to, let me finish the article and then I'll comment a little bit more. Gutierrez said he will also look into a visa waiver program for tourists from the Philippines, which was among his and Leon Guerrero's campaign promises. Guam governors have the ability to recommend to the U.S. Department of Homeland Security the countries that should be on the visa waiver program. I do remember reading that it's no longer something that's a creature of statute, that the folks in Homeland Security could decide that people from a given country could come to the United States without a visa. The key element here is that there has to be some findings that if people are allowed to come from a country on a visa waiver, that they'll go back at the end of their stay and not be staying in the United States illegally. Okay, so I'm going to come back to Leon Guerrero versus Doris Kearns Goodwin after that big halftime show that we've all been waiting for.
Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 1350 AM, 93.3 FM, and 104.3 HD3.
Another week without a paycheck. I'm Richard Jordan, Fox News. 800,000 federal workers aren't getting paid as the finger pointing on Capitol Hill continues. Republican leader Kevin McCarthy on CBS's Face the Nation says that Democrats aren't coming to the table.
This president is focused on giving this government open. That's why the president is here. That's why I'm here in Washington. The challenge has been from the very beginning. The president has made numerous offers about this shutdown, reasonable too, moving further to the Democratic side. And there has not been one offer coming back from the Democrats. It is unacceptable that 800,000 U.S. employees are not being paid.
Chris Wallace on Fox News Sunday addressed the issue with Democratic Senator Chris Coons.
Are the Democrats willing to make a compromise that includes money for a border wall fencing, a border barrier, I'll call it, in return for some concessions from the president on people in this country illegally?
I think the president should test that by making it clear what concessions and what compromise he's willing to put forward.
Some federal workers are working without pay while others are furloughed. A cargo plane crashed this morning at an Iranian airport, likely due to weather conditions. The 10 crew members on board are feared dead, but there's no confirmation of casualties. Indonesian officials say divers found the cockpit voice recorder from the Lion Air jet that crashed in October. The black box was beneath 26 feet of seabed mud in the Java Sea. Many Los Angeles area students will have a substitute teacher Monday. 30,000 educators are going on strike. The teachers union says Superintendent Austin Butner is ignoring concerns.
He's been missing in action while bargaining in the media, dodging the issues, giving false budget information, attempting to dissuade members from communicating with parents while he puts out his own false message.
Arlene Unoye with United Teachers Los Angeles. This is Fox News.
Introducing Exchanged, Guam's first online and mobile remittance to the Philippines. Exchanged is the easiest and fastest way to send money to your family and friends anywhere in the Philippines. Download the Exchanged app or visit their website, exchange.me. Sign up, remit, and get a chance to win a trip for two to Manila. Deluxe accommodations at the Belmont Hotel at Resorts World Manila. So sign up and remit now at Exchanged. Promo ends March 2nd, 2019. Conditions apply. Also avail of Exchange dollar to remit promo. Visit exchange.me for details.
Laddie Stone Entertainment and the stations of Choice Broadcasting invite you to meet the 2019 Miss and Mrs. Curvy Pageant contestants with the official meet and greet on Sunday, January 20th at Icon. Doors open at 6 and it's $15 at the door, and it comes with your first drink. Get to know your favorite curvy contestants with the fabulous fashion show by Figure 8. It's the 2019 Miss and Mrs. Curvy Pageant. Brought to you by Pitbull Empire, Figure 8 Boutique, local promos, Bongdozas, and Icon. For more information, check out Laddie Stone Entertainment on Facebook. It's the 2019 Miss and Mrs. Curvy Pageant.
A winter storm that hovered over the Midwest and Mid-Atlantic states for most of the weekend has finally moved on. The system dumped several inches of snow in Missouri, Illinois, Virginia, and surrounding areas, but the impacts are still being felt.
This is the biggest snowmaker of the season for some of these cities in the path of this storm. It's already being blamed for 7 deaths and winter weather alerts spanning 1,500 miles.
Fox's Jackie Heinrich. A U.S. judge in California has blocked Trump administration rules that would have allowed more employers to opt out of providing women with no-cost birth control for religious and moral concerns. The rules were to take effect Monday, but Judge Haywood Gilliam granted a request for a preliminary injunction by California, 12 other states, and Washington, D.C. California and the other states argue that the changes would force women to turn to state-funded programs for birth control and lead to unintended pregnancies. Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is scolding one major news network.
A CBS News producer recently tweeted out a graphic of the network's newly assembled 2020 election coverage team. It appears to feature 12 men and women of various races and ethnic backgrounds, but does not include any African Americans. That's drawing the ire of freshman representative and Democrat firebrand Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She took to social media calling it unacceptable. She also told CBS to try again. One Twitter user responding to Ocasio-Cortez saying, quote, "If there aren't strict racial quotas for every batch of hires, does it mean a company is racist?" Unquote. So far, no comment from CBS. Tom Graham, Fox News.
A pack of wild canines discovered near the beaches of the Texas Gulf Coast carry a substantial amount of red wolf genes. Researchers say red wolf DNA is remarkably resilient. The red wolf was declared extinct in the wild in 1980, but some were captured for a successful captive breeding program. The canines found near Galveston Island appear to be a hybrid of red wolf and coyote. I'm Richard Jordan, and this is Fox News.
Here at APL, our core values give the company its heart and soul. Whether it's connecting your business with our global network through our newly enhanced service or investing our efforts into giving back to the community, APL is committed to serving you. We humbly honor the opportunity to find innovative solutions for you and your business. To learn more about our enhanced service, call 588-4651 or visit www.apl.com/Guam for more details.
Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959, and they'll continue to be there for you in the years to come. Whether you're looking to get a personal loan for that summer vacation or paying off those long overdue bills, Family Finance has got you covered. Apply for a personal loan from $1,000 up to $3,500 by calling Family Finance in Hagåtña at 475-4545, Upper Tuon 647-5626, or in Dededo 633-4473. Family Finance has been serving the people of Guam since 1959.
As ever, the most enjoyable halftime show here on Tall Tales. And I'm going to get back into the card here. I just did want to make an announcement about an announcement, and that is that we're going to be making a personnel change here on Tall Tales this week. And the real Joe Cruz is looking at me rather quizzically because he hasn't seen it come in on the Tall Tales political intel line. So make sure you tune in every day, because one of these days I'm going to break the news, but you just have to be here when it happens to understand what's going to happen, what is happening. Personnel change right here on Tall Tales. Just like at the governor's office, although I don't think we're going to have any chiefs here on Tall Tales. Okay, so going back to this article here, is subheading, Gutierrez, my job is to get results. Gutierrez ran against Leon Guerrero in the August 2018 Democrat primary, but Leon Guerrero said she recognized Gutierrez's strengths as former governor and statesman, particularly in stimulating the tourist economy. As you know, under his term, tourism flourished, and he worked very closely with the business people to try to get our tourism to expand with good infrastructure, both in the roads and so forth, Leon Guerrero said in an interview at Adelup after signing her first proclamation as governor, declaring January 13 to 19 as Airport Week 2019. Yeah, that's a pretty momentous occasion. Under Gutierrez's term, then President Bill Clinton visited Guam in November 1998. Gutierrez said he's already looking at inviting key officials, regardless of whether they're Democrat or Republican, such as President Donald Trump, to put a spotlight on Guam. My job is to get results, Gutierrez said, adding that he's good at networking. Well, he is, because he's, you know, he's right here on Tall Tales, on the Facebooking on Tall Tales. So that is clearly the sign of a good networker, someone who's in touch with the very pulse of the island of Guam. Gutierrez's main role is to advise the new governor on new industries and investors that have the potential to further grow Guam's economy and to serve as a bridge between national and international investors in Guam, Leon Guerrero said. These could include expanding the telecommunications industry and free trade zones, as well as developing an aquaculture industry, the governor said. Leon Guerrero is the first Democrat to occupy Guadalupe in 16 years since Gutierrez left office in 2003 after serving 2 terms. Next subheading, Bordallo back in D.C. When Gutierrez was governor from 1995 to 2003, Bordallo was his lieutenant governor. Bordallo is now the government of Guam's liaison officer in Washington, D.C. She was Guam's delegate to Congress for 16 years, or 8 terms, and lost her latest re-election bid to fellow Democrat, former Senator Mike San Nicolas. Leon Guerrero said she tapped Bordallo to be part of her administration because of her strengths in establishing relationships in D.C. to help advance Guam's causes. Bordallo holds a position formerly occupied by Margaret Metcalf. You notice it says Bordallo holds a position, not occupies the office. Who was earning a salary of $102,530 a year, including benefits under the Calvo administration. Leon Guerrero said she understands the position wasn't really active during the prior administration. I want it to be a very active position, Leon Guerrero said. Bordallo, in her new role, would help in communicating Guam's causes in the national capital, whether it's Congress, the White House, or other federal agencies. Now, let's stop here for a second. We had an election, and Mike San Nicolas won the election to be Guam's delegate in Congress. He beat Madeline Bordallo. And now we're going to send Madeline Bordallo back to the District of Columbia to help communicate Guam's causes with the United States Congress. Now, am I being hypersensitive here, or is that dissing Mike San Nicolas? Is the implication here, well, yeah, Mike, you're a bright young kid, but I don't know, you need somebody back there who's got some gravitas and knows her way around the Capitol and things like that. We can't put all our eggs in your basket. Maybe that isn't what it is, but boy, it sure looks that way. Bordallo would also help for the arrange for the governor as well as senators and other GovGuam officials to meet with D.C. officials when they visit the Capitol, among other things. I think we're just talking about how you can call the mainland as part of the North American numbering plan so relatively inexpensively now. I wonder if this stuff couldn't be done by telephone. If we have to have somebody making $100,000 in D.C. to do the telephoning and make these appointments for us. Just curious. Another quote, you'd be surprised, and I was when I visited D.C., that former Congresswoman Bordallo has a lot of good friends, and not just the House of Representatives, but also the Senate. She's got a lot of good friends. I wonder if we're perhaps trying to import a style of politics that works really well here to the nation's capital. I also want to take the positives of that strength to help us from the White House perspective and from the Congress perspective. I'm going to use her a lot in terms of networking. And also for her to create as the opportunities from when I go to D.C. to meet with key people. Well, the word networking is mentioned both as far as Chief Gutierrez and former Congresswoman Madeline Bradallo. I think you can take an online course in networking, can't you, Real Joe Cruz?
I'm not sure, sir. I'm sure there's classes, though.
Yeah, you know, setting up a digital network in your office and things like that. Networking.
Yeah, possibly, sir.
Yeah. Leanne Guerrero said she believes the issues between Bradallo and San Nicolas have been smoothed out. Now, you recall that after San Nicolas was elected, he after a reasonable length of time, he said that he was getting no cooperation at all from the office of Congresswoman Bradallo. Things along the lines of transition, return phone calls, and things like that. Leanne Guerrero said she believes the issues between Bradallo and San Nicolas have been smoothed out, and she expects the two to work collaboratively for Guam's interests. Well, I got to stop here for a second. That would be nice. That would be nice. But, you know, when it comes to politics, the phenomenon of oxygen comes into play. And political oxygen is that which a politician inhales so that he can speak in such a manner that what he says will get him earned media. So as an example, it was said that when Barack Obama was president, it didn't matter where he was or who was there. He took up all the oxygen in the room because nobody cared what anybody said except for Barack Obama. So with respect to Madeline Bradallo and Michael San Nicolas, Mike's a freshman. He's a new guy. He wants to make his bones back there, wants to do something important. Madeline obviously wants to hang on, although she certainly had her time in the sun, and she's older than I am, for crying out loud. So she's at that point in her life when people are wondering, is she still up to it? Can she still handle it? So in the Capitol, there's only so much oxygen to go around. And carrying the analogy a little farther, if people are in confined quarters and one breathes in too much oxygen, the other one is going to suffocate. And I don't have any inside information. I'm only speculating here. But I think the chances of those two working collaboratively for the people are somewhere between slim and none. I think each will have his own agenda, which they will pursue quite vigorously, and that may be okay. You know, we know for sure that sometimes competition brings out the best in everybody, and it could very well be that some kind of a rivalry between the two to see who can be of greater service to the island might not be all bad. So we'll have to see how that one works out. I got a call from Ken here. Hello, Ken.
Yeah, I'm very curious to see how that's going to work out as well, because during what's her name's time, not Pudding, whatever her name is, the previous Washington representative or liaison, whatever they called her.
Uh-huh.
We learned through her testimony and stuff that the majority of her work seemed to involve in making appointments for visiting administration officials with the administration. I would think that, Mike is going to be working on things that will be moving through the different departments and Senates. I'm curious to see, and I'd be really anxious to see actually whether or not, Madeline is able to lift that position up to something that's more than the overpaid appointment setter. Because, the whole point of one of the main points in Lou's campaign was she was going to reduce the cost of governmental operations. So now we're looking at a staff and office spaces and support to basically duplicate what we're doing through the Mike Nicholas's office. I don't see that as a very big savings.
I tend to agree, Ken. It's a good point. The name you were looking for is Margaret Metcalf. She had the job before
Yeah, that's it, Margaret Metcalf. But I mean, I watched all the videos of her testifying before San Jose City Council.
Yeah.
So if she had enough time as our liaison to run a business in California, and she talked extensively about her business interests that in her testimony before San Jose, I'm just kind of curious to see what we're going to be getting this time around.
And here's another way to look at it. Michael St. Nicholas will have a title that anyone who's paying attention will be able to recognize. He's the delegate from Guam. So that isn't exactly the most prestigious title in Washington, D.C., but it beats what Madeline Verdalio is going to print on her business cards, which will be the Guam liaison to D.C. or something like that.
Yeah, Governor of Guam liaison office.
And in D.C., these titles and protocol, et cetera, can be quite important. So I'm wondering if Madeline is going to be greeted with the kind of affection that this news release that I'm reading suggests that she will be greeted with. She's got a lot of friends and things like that. And when it comes to friends, Harry Truman made probably one of the more famous statements about friends in Washington, D.C. Harry Truman said that if you want to have a friend in Washington, buy a dog. Because it's kind of a cutthroat atmosphere.
Yeah, I mean, we're looking at a serious situation here facing Guam. Already, we're looking at a situation where as a result of the federal government's operations, the annual debt service on the federal government debt is almost equal to the annual budget for the Department of Defense. And with the latest round of fundings that are being proposed, the federal government has announced that as a result of the competitive tax and wage act or whatever, collections are off. Surprise, surprise. And as a result, they are going to be increasing their borrowing. So it becomes very possible that we could see the debt service actually grow to a level that exceeds the Department of Defense budget. And the reason I bring that up is as the debt level service grows, that's less money going out to programs, and already the departments are being told to start cutting their budgets for the 2020. Well, who's going to have more clout? A non-voting delegate or representatives from Texas, California, Florida, Michigan, New York, Pennsylvania, when it comes to saving their federal dollars. That's one of the big concerns, because I think that as we're looking at the slowdown taking place in Asia, we're seeing numerous countries on the edge of recession. That's going to affect our tourist market. We have the federal government already in slowdown mode that's already affecting payments to Guam from the federal government. But what happens when the budget cuts start hitting? This is something that I'm concerned that I don't think our senators are paying any attention to, because they keep talking about how we're breaking records with our tourism, but we're not seeing the dollar flow that would go along with record-breaking tourism. And we're not seeing any effort whatsoever to reduce the size and cost of government. We're appointing deputy directors, we're resurrecting agencies that were previously closed, we're keeping our commitments at, just this little play between Jim Moylan and Lulian Guerrero tells me that we're going to be funding the budget is going to be based on a 5% gross receipts tax. So I don't see any effort for anything that's going to keep the commitment to roll back the gross receipts tax until such time as we've exhausted every opportunity, but like collecting past due taxes and reducing governmental operations. I think what's happening is we're getting ready to hit another debt bomb, and we're going to see an emergency legislation introduced, either increasing taxes again or a repeat of that buffet menu the Calvo administration issued in 2015, where they wanted to raise something like $500 million in taxes across these different options.
Well, okay, Ken. Thanks for sharing your insights with us.
Well, it's important that those of us as taxpayers need to remind those elected officials that almost to a man, they all committed to reducing the size of government. We're not seeing any effort there yet.
True enough.
All right. Thank you for your time, Bob.
Thanks for calling, Ken. It's always a pleasure talking to you. So, yeah, I agree 100%. I don't see adding people to the payroll just kind of for the sake of adding people to the payroll. But what do I know? I got a feeling that I'm going to be told once again that I don't know Jack, right, Jack?
Yeah, I think the proper name for that office would probably be, for Madeline's office, would be probably, it should be a lobbyist office, shouldn't it? Let's call it what it is. She has no governmental powers. She's just there. She's lobbying for the executive office of Guam. Well, whatever it might be. It's not really. We shouldn't call it a liaison office. I mean, what is she liaising with?
And liaison sort of implies an equality between the parties that are being liaised, right?
Exactly. So let's call it what it is. It's a lobbying office that they're paid by public funds. That's the way I see it. Yeah. Whether it's effective or not, that's not the point. Point is that she's there, and tax dollars are funding her office or her position. More like that's what the correct refer to. But I wanted to call because I found something a little bit disturbing in social media, and I think Ray was talking about it, about I guess a panhandler or a homeless person begging or soliciting money on a medium and then going out and gambling it on one of those poker machines.
Uh-huh.
Well, there was a lot, right now I'm looking at it, and there's a lot of negativity on it, and it's kind of upsetting because you know, people. I can't judge this guy. You know, I carry coins with me and dollars, and I give it, and I don't think about it. I don't try to critique them. I don't follow them with cameras to see where if they're going to buy what they said they're going to buy, or put it to the use that I think that it should be put into use. It leaves my hands, it goes to their hands, and I say, God bless you. You know, I hope this helps you out. And the negativity going around about this person, I mean, we don't know anything about this. You know, this guy might be suffering from schizophrenia. He might be suffering from PTSD. And maybe he looks at these machines as a way that, you know, that gives him some sort of tranquility. I don't know. I don't think it's properly right to judge this person based on a few photographs and what he did, you know, being angry to another panhandler. You know, I remember my first encounter with a homeless person. I was working at Payless, and this Holly lady, I saw her come in, and when she was coming through Payless, she was well dressed, and then as the months and the years went by, you could see her deteriorating before your eyes. And everybody knew, you know, that she was homeless, and she was begging out there. And it just took one woman, I forgot who it was, that took some time, you know, got her cleaned up, went and did a physical search before there was an internet to find out where this lady, I don't know if you remember the story, Bob.
I do,
but
yeah.
They finally found out where she was, and she came from a well-to-do family, and she just happened to be off her medication. And, you know, this kind of stories, I don't know whether the millennials know about it or they're just so quick to pull the trigger on what they see. And I put myself that, you know, I'm in no position to judge. You know, when my mother died in 2010, and there's this guy, you're from Jigo. Do you know who Ben Tovis is?
I think so, yeah.
A tall dude, tall, muscular dude, well-built dude, and he used to hang out at the post office. And he used to solicit money, you know. Every time I went to check my mail, you know, just happened to be there, he came up, you know, hey, Lou, you know, I need to get some money to ride the bus, get back home. And I would always give it to him, you know. I mean, I could tell that he, you know, he was well-fed, not well-fed, but he's in good working condition. But you could see
Jack?
his eyes.
Jack, can I ask you to hang on through the break? It's an interesting story. We'll get you right back on, okay?
Sure.
Thanks, Jack.
It's important to have claims process that works for you. At Guahan Insurance Services, we make things simple and convenient. Same door you walk in to purchase your insurance is the same door you open to file your claim. We can't pretend that the car insurance claims process is fun, but we can promise a hassle-free and speedy recovery without any runarounds. For your home, auto, and business insurance, visit us at the Camacho Landmark Center on Marine Corps Drive in Tamuning. Don't forget to like us on Facebook or give us a call at 475-1162 or text 929-SAVE. That's 929-7283.
Chili's 3 for Me menu just got bigger. We're giving you more choices for the same great price. For just $15, you can get a beverage, salad, and an entree. First, choose from a refreshing Coca-Cola, iced tea, or Heineken on draft. Then enjoy a house salad and select your choice of a mouth-watering entree, like our half-rack ribs, Cajun chicken pasta, old-timer burger, personal chicken fajitas, or the flavorful margarita flatbread. So hurry in today and enjoy our Chili's 3 for Me menu for just $15. Available for a limited time. Chili's, more life happens here.
Jack Haddock is suited up today for the 7th inning stretch, so ordinarily we'd have him out there shagging fly balls as I use my fungal bat, but I didn't want to take up too much time because I want to get Jack right back on the air telling us about Ben Tovas. So go ahead, Jack.
Yeah, so Ben was a big guy, and he was a big dude that's not in fat but really healthy. He stood about your size, about 6 foot something. And, he would hang out at the post office in the morning, and he would, just ask people, for money for the bus ride home. And whenever I see him, I just give him, I said, God bless, here you go, brother. I hope you get your ride home. And, he'd always approach me and things like that. And there was one evening, my mother passed away, and we were having a rosary over there in Naganya at the Santa Teresita Chapel, the small one.
Mm-hmm.
And Ben had come over and approached one of my relatives and, just asked him, hey, man, can you spare $2? I would like to, just catch a ride back home and get something to eat. And instead of giving any money to Ben, my relative says, yeah, the soup kitchen is down the corner right there. Why don't you just make your way over there? There's free food and stuff like that. And so, he was giving me a ride back home, and I said, why didn't you just give him some money, man? Why'd you have to do that? And he says, this guy, he's always asking for money, and he's drinking beer and he's doing stuff that he's not supposed to be doing with it. Well, anyways, a few days later, this guy got hit as he was walking across the street up there in your neck of the woods, up there around Jigo area. And, you just wonder. I said, what if you just gave him the money, the $2? Why did you have to critique this guy and things like that? It's not like he's asking you for a loan. He's just asking you for spare change. And so the last thing you have in your conscience is that you didn't give it to him. And now this guy's dead, got hit as a pedestrian. So, the way I look at it is that we can't be too judgmental when people in need are asking. And sometimes they use the money for things that, might go against your wishes or not what you want them to do. And then sometimes they actually use it for food or whatever that they need it for necessities. And we were so heavy to critique these people because, number one, they look in a lower scale than us, and number two, it's much easier to say, hey, look, I'm working for a living. Why can't you work for a living? Or why aren't you out there working? You look pretty able. Not trying to understand that maybe, they have some, social or mental issues or some PTSD problems. These are things that, normal people don't do. They don't stand in the corner of the road to beg for money. It's not an attribute which is say, hey, I'm gonna get money from these people as they go through rush hour, and then I'm gonna jump in my Lexus and go spend it somewhere else. No, I mean there is something inherently not normal, but we seem to critique it in a way that what they're doing is wrong. And I always am a believer that, what you do, or what you do not do, it has a ripple like in a water, and it affects other people or other transactions or other relationships that happen along time. And so I'm a true believer of that. So, when someone asks for change or there's someone, I just give it to them and I let it go. The fact that this person took some time to follow this other person and then picture them in an uncomfortable place such as gambling inside whatever those pachinko machines or those gambling machines, or getting into an argument with another homeless person over money or whatever. It makes you wonder, what was the purpose of them doing this? And what are you trying to solve? Are you trying to solve his problems? Are you trying to get to the answers of why we have beggars and vagabonds on the road? And the answer is no. You just didn't like this guy. You followed him, and you wanted to prove a point.
Jack, it's human nature that it's human nature that people don't like to have the idea that they've been cheated.
Well, I don't see how it's cheated when you're giving it
Well,
freely,
let's take it one step at a time. Would you go along with that idea that most people don't like the idea that they've been cheated?
I don't. From the giver part?
From anything. Do you enjoy being cheated by someone else?
Oh, of course not. Of course not.
Yeah, so you start out with the proposition that people don't like to be cheated. People don't like to be conned. So when one person prevails on another person for alms, presenting himself as someone who is needy and needs the money for food, and then that person takes the money and runs over to the nearest gambling machine and sticks the money in the gambling machine, it's not being judgmental to say that the person who gave the money feels like he's being cheated. I think that's just the recognition of a fact, Jack.
Well, I would agree if the person that was given the money led their lives the same way throughout. But if the person giving the money is complaining, like $2 or 50 cents or 75, and the person that's giving that money can't read their power bill or can't understand what 2 cents in a cup of coffee means, then I think you need to draw back a little bit and examine why you're being what makes you think that you're being cheated. I mean, if you're out there vaping, or it takes a little bit off your bar tab or something like that. I mean, come on, they're not asking for a home loan. They're just there to say, hey, can you spare your loose change or a few?
My point is this, Jack, that it's human nature that people don't like to feel like they've been conned. And when one person asks another person for money for a particular purpose and then uses the money for something else, most people are going to feel like they've been conned.
Okay, so let's look at it from that perspective. Were they being conned? Or does this person have a serious problem?
I don't follow that.
Well, the person that you said that are doing the con, that took the money and went and gambled, he's doing a con. But is he doing a con, or does this person have a serious problem?
Well, you've presented yourself as one who is generally fairly generous when approached. No,
I'm not generous. I just don't. I mean, he's not asking for.
Let me continue, Jack. One who has some amount of generosity when approached by a panhandler. If the panhandler came up to you and said, "Hey, Jack, can you let me have $5? I want to go stick it over here in this poker machine," what would you say?
I said no.
Okay. And if he said, "Jack, can you let me have $5 because I'm really hungry and I got to get something to eat," and you give him $5, and you see him turn on his heel and go into the nearest gambling parlor and stick the money in a poker machine, how would you feel?
Nothing. It's $5.
You wouldn't feel anything about it at all.
No, because he asked me good-heartedly. I gave it in good faith. I'm not going to put a tracker
So
on
what's
that.
What's the difference then between that and his being honest and saying, "Jack, give me the $5 so I can go gamble"? In other words, if he cons you, you think it's okay, but if he doesn't con you, then it's not okay. That's what you're saying.
Well, no, because I look at it from a larger perspective. If he asked me and he went in there and he gambled it away, then he got in his Lexus and went to his mansion, I would feel conned. But if he went there and he gambled and he came out and he's still penniless, he's still homeless, he still doesn't have any food to eat, and that's not a con. There's something wrong with that guy. He's not all there.
Well, okay. Well, thanks for sharing your viewpoint on this.
But no, just a final note. Just a final note. It's called charity. It's called heart, and people they see this and they say they're disheartened, and it makes them wary of giving away to the homeless or to someone in need. And I said this shouldn't even be a problem. I mean, it shouldn't even be a problem. People there is probably something wrong with him. There's probably something wrong with him. And then I refer back to that lady that just went off her meds, and it just took someone some time.
The name of the person that uncovered what was wrong was her name was Joy Black.
That's right. Yes.
And she did take it upon herself to do something, and she did find out that the lady was a traveler, and somehow when she got here, she lost her psychoactive meds, and really went downhill fast. So.
And this was before Facebook, before Twitter, before the internet.
It wasn't easy for Joy Black to get to the bottom of that.
So I'm just asking. There are cons out there. But I think really when people that do these things, they're not really all in their mind in the right way, more than not.
Well, I don't know about you, Jack.
I would agree with you. It would be a con if the guy took it gambling and then he got back in his car and then went back to his house. But at the end of the day, if he's out there gambling and he comes out, he's still penniless, he's still broke, he still has nothing to eat, he's still homeless, then there's something wrong with that.
Well, maybe so, but I would still say that the matter turns on the way that the panhandler approaches the person that he's panhandling, and if he misrepresents himself, I don't feel a whole lot of sympathy for the guy.
I don't know. A schizophrenic is still a schizophrenic.
Well, okay, Jack.
All right, Bob.
Good. Always a pleasure talking to you. So I guess the discussion there was who's going to get the jack and who's going to jack whom around, right? Okay. So a little interlude there, going back here to Doris, as you were, Luann Guerrero versus Doris Kearns Goodwin, picking up on the rest of this news story here. Leon Guerrero said she believes the issues between Berdallo and San Nicolas have been smoothed out, and she expects the two to work collaboratively for Guam's interest. San Nicolas, when sought for comment, said, "We respect the governor and look to her to ensure that her liaison aligns with Guam agenda and that the voters have established in recent elections." So that's a pretty interesting sentence there too. So San Nicolas is saying, I'm your guy in Congress here. The folks elected me for that, and they elected you governor. And it's your job to make sure you keep Madeline Berdallo in line and doing what she's supposed to do. Now, that would be no small task either, would it? Okay, well, I'm going to finish up on this, heading down the home stretch. I may have time to get started on Joe San Augustine versus the PDN. We'll see.
Docomo Pacific is making the Better Together bundle even better. 2 great services plus more. Get unlimited local calls, SMS, and 20 gigs of data, plus unlimited home internet for $109 a month. Sign up today and get free installation and choose between a free Galaxy S8, S8 Plus, or $100 off select devices. Mobile plus online from Docomo Pacific. Better together. Some conditions apply. See store for details.
Welcome to Subway's ad for the new Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich. How would you like it?
I would like it to predict my future.
My pleasure.
I see. Your future, a delicious moment in the new Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich with steak, jalapeno peppers, and Chipotle Southwest sauce. Wait, I foresee an imminent spell that is going to entice you. It's the crunchy bread with sunflower seeds, which provides an enchanting flavor. Don't miss it, and be mindful, the portal of the Chipotle cheesesteak sandwich is open for a limited time only. Subway, make it what you want.
It's the home stretch here on Tall Tales. I've got about 10 more minutes before the real Joe Cruz spins his turntable and puts Ravel's Bolero on. He knows how much I like that song at the end of the show, so he's always pretty dependable there. Perhaps that's how he's been able to build his cult of personality. Today's kind of a strange day, though. I haven't seen anyone chime in and say, good afternoon, Bob, and the real Joe Cruz. Let me see. Lynn and Vince Berdalio chime in on the jacking of Tall Tales, right? Don't agree with Jack. There are many sources and help the beggars can receive. They just don't want to do anything for it. And Lynn and Vince say we shouldn't enable them. Yeah, that's the I didn't want to get into that with Jack, but that crosses my mind. You know, when someone is acting in an antisocial manner, and you make it easy for that person to act in an antisocial manner, are you helping them, or are you just enabling them to go on in their own erroneous ways? I don't think it's probably not too hard to figure out where I come down on that one. Let's see. We're going to have an expert chime in here on I wonder if it's on the jack or what, but we'll find out because we have a Carl online, not the chief, not the Carl, but our Carl. Hello, our Carl.
Hey, good afternoon, Bob.
Yep.
Very interesting conversation you were having. I don't know if I'm much of an expert on panhandling, but I just want to call in because I remember a comment that one of my that I saw on Facebook some months ago, and it was for someone that said that he's a local guy. He works with a local company, and he said that the company he worked for hired a street person, you know, someone that was begging for money. And the guy came in, he worked one day, and they never saw him again. And so they eventually ran into him, someone in the company, and they asked him what happened. And he said, it's too much work. I can make more money for much less effort just panhandling. And that's not to say that there aren't people on the street that legitimately need help. There's a great deal of mental illness, I think, behind some of it. But some of them just, you know, they like the lifestyle. It's just a carefree lifestyle. They don't have all the stress that, average people have. And, you know, that's the trade-off they make. They live a kind of a carefree life. But, you know, it does make you wary when you are giving, you know, that sometimes you're just enabling some people to just continue that lifestyle. Where you draw the line, I don't know. I guess that's up to each person, you know, where they draw the line. I don't know where you draw it, but you know, I hear the stories over and over again of people that, you know, and you've read of them too, you know, people, especially in the States, you know, panhandling, you know, out on the island in the middle of the street, and then at the end of the day, they go to the side of the road and they either get into a decent car or someone picks them up in a really decent car. And there's been reporters that have followed them, and they live in a middle-class neighborhood. And basically panhandling is their life. I mean, it's their job. You know, I'm saying I believe they're the minority. But there are cases like that of people taking advantage of our kindness. And I don't know what the percentage would be on Guam. I think that'd be really tiny. But anyway, I just wanted to throw in my 2 bits on that.
Well, I'm glad you did. You know, the thing that I don't think that I was being very persuasive when I was talking with Jack, the thing that I think is important is that nobody likes the idea that he's being conned. or cheated. So if someone approached me and said he was hungry, maybe if I had the time and the inclination, maybe I'd take him to a restaurant and get him something to eat. I would feel kind of good about that. But if I gave him money to get something to eat and he runs to the nearest poker parlor and sticks it in some kind of a machine, I think that I get down not on him but on myself, because I was so gullible that I let someone cheat me. I don't know if others would feel that way, but I don't think anyone likes the idea of being conned. And from what I've read, it's sometimes hard to get people who have been the victors of con men to come forward, because people don't like to admit that they have been conned, that their gullibility allowed them to buy into something that they shouldn't have. So,
very true. And you know, the American people, including the people on Guam, as far as what do you call this, charitable giving, are the most generous people in the world. I mean, if you look at the figures, we give billions and billions, tens of billions of dollars every year, maybe even, you know, I need to look at the specific figures, but I know it's in the, you know, many, many billions of dollars for charitable causes. Because, you know, we live in a prosperous society, and people go out and they have decent careers, they earn a good living, and they want to give something back to society. So, you know, we're fortunate that we live in a prosperous country, and a country in which the American people, including, you know, the American people on Guam, are very generous, very kind people. So I'm just thankful I live in a prosperous and very kind country, because someday I may need that as you know, as I get really, really old. Anyway, Bob, thank you for allowing me to make a few comments. I do appreciate it.
It's good talking to you, Carl. Thanks for calling. So that takes us down here just about to the end of the program. I've almost finished with I think where I left off here with the article was San Nicolas, when sought for comment, said, "We respect the governor and look to her to ensure that her liaison aligns with the Guam agenda that the voters have established in the recent elections." The Leon Guerrero administration said it will be announcing more cabinet and Adelup appointments in the days ahead. A little off the subject there. So that's another angle to consider. A couple of pretty good-sized egos there. Chief Carl Gutierrez and Madeline Bradallo have accomplished a lot. I can kind of envision Governor Lulian Guerrero with a chair in her hand and holding a pistol against the chair and a whip in the other hand, kind of like a lion tamer, trying to keep order in administration with Madeline and Carl as part of it. But we'll pick this up again tomorrow. It's been great talking to you out there in our international radio listening audience. Ray Gibson tomorrow at 6, and I'll be back at 1600 in the afternoon. I'll see you then.
The Point is KUSG, Hagåtña, Guam, 1350 AM, 93.3 FM, and 104.3 HD3.